Roger. Go for deploy.
Hello, welcome back. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Adventure Radio. Today, we have Manoj Dias for you. And Manoj is the founder of A-Space, a drop-in meditation studio in Australia. And he is a good friend of myself and of the show. And yeah, he's a great all-round guy. So we got Manoj on because I wanted to have another conversation about mindfulness, and I think it's just crazy. I mean, the fact that people go out to the gym and stand in front of a mirror and do bicep curls and you know try and put all this time into the vanity of looking good and so forth. People go out and put all this money into the fashion that they want to achieve. Everybody goes out and cares about their career and tries to get themselves to a position where they think they'll feel happy. But there's still this huge stigma around the fact that practicing mindfulness, whether it's any form of meditation, there's a huge stigma behind it. It's still a hippie thing to do. It's still an airy-fairy thing to do. I'm very guilty of that. My mother's a yoga instructor, and she actually had been for years telling me to meditate, and I thought that it would be sitting there omming, trying to have an out-of-body experience, floating in the air and looking down on yourself while you're in some transcendental plane. I thought it was hot air. I thought it was fucked. I thought it was all bullshit, until due to the fact that I needed it because of anxiety issues that I was having. I started meditating, and then I realized, well, this stuff just works. I have no spirituality side to it. I'm not a spiritual guy, but I meditate every single day, sometimes twice a day, and I practice. I don't practice what I preach what I practice. I tell people all day, every day that they should be meditating, not because they want to be at one with themselves, not because they want to get to a different place in their mind, not because they want to do fucking anything crazy like that. You should do it because it will make you a better person. It will make you a happier person. It will make you a more well-rounded person. It will make you a better entrepreneur, better husband, better friend to be around. And it's 5 to 10 minutes a day. So if you guys have listened to the show, then you're well aware that me and Tommy are both very big on this. Tommy wants to make it his life's work, really. So this is a great chat with Manoj, and Manoj kind of breaks down really the intricacies of what meditation and mindfulness actually is, what it does, the scientific benefits. And it's just a great chat with Manoj because he's a great dude. So there's a few too many dick jokes in here, but I think if you can wade through the sea of dick jokes, then you'll probably you get to the rock of glory in the middle. That didn't work. Anyway, this show's brought to you by Audible, guys. Check out audibletrial.com/ADVF radio, and you'll see over 200,000 audiobooks. Some of the audiobooks that I've listened to in the last probably 3 months are Start With a Why by Simon Sinek. That was a book that I was just not getting through in a handheld version. I had it in a book form. So I thought, fuck it, you know what, I'm going to knock this on the head. I was enjoying it, but I just wasn't getting through it as quick as I would like. So what I did was I got it on an audiobook and I just pumped it in. I also listened to Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. That is a fantastic book about transferring the military virtues. I'm not a military guy, but transferring the military virtues over into business terms. I've read 10% Happier by Dan Harris. That's about meditation basically, but like from just an average guy, not an average guy, he was a successful guy, but just an everyman, tells you his story about it. The Inevitable by Kevin Kelly. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk. The Thank You Economy by Gary Vaynerchuk. Yeah, I couldn't speak more highly of Audible, guys. I think you're mad not to be using it at some point. It's just an easy way to learn, take things in, and that will make you better at anything that you do. So head to www.audibletrial.com/ADVF radio. Get one free audiobook, one free 30-day subscription. Also, guys, we're brought to you by Quash Creative. Head to quashcreative.com. and quote radio when you speak to our friend Sean Marsh down there, and he will give you a free SEO report and a report on your current or existing brand. Marshy is the man that did the intro to this podcast, which I absolutely love, and he's all things creative, so check him out. Also, guys, last and not least, we are brought to you by Adventure Fit Travel. Adventure Fit Travel is an adventure travel company for the fitness community, guys. If you are after a holiday and you want to do it in a different way, you don't want to go out there and get drunk all the time, you don't want to go out there and travel around with a boring tour group like most of the other tour groups out there. If you want to do epic adventure activities, guys, and you want to train throughout, you want to do some mindfulness, some meditation, some yoga, work on that side. So a whole holistic experience while eating burgers and beers and partying your face off and climbing rocks and jumping off them and mountain biking, whitewater rafting, surfing. We do it all, guys, and it's so much fun when we do. I happen to be the founder and CEO, so you probably don't believe me, but head to our website, check out the testimonials, check out our Facebook reviews, and there's many more people than me that will attest to that. And I think you'd be mad to, if you're planning a holiday, to not check us out. So if you want to, check out www.adventurefittravel.com. If you actually are going to go ahead and book on a trip, use the code word radio. You'll get 10% off. We've got Iceland, we have New Zealand, we have Australia, we have Kokoda, the Greek islands, Hawaii, Bali. They're all coming, and they're all within the next 9 months. So www.adventurefittravel.com, and here's Manoj. Alrighty. Well, welcome back to Adventure Fit Radio. We're sitting here with Manoj. Is Dias?
Dias.
Manoj Dias. Probably should have done that.
Yeah, probably should have done that. Yeah, should have asked. Live on the show, we already don't know. So we're sitting with Ben Stevens.
So before we throw to Manoj, we are going to and welcome him in. We're going to start off with Tommy's tribute, as usual. So here we go, Manoj. Get ready.
I'm going to get right into it this time. Here we go.
I'm ready.
I'm really into this one. You got a fast mind, and I got the ticket to freedom. I feel like I'm getting down. Not to worry, you're safe with me. I said I don't feel like me. Who are you and how can you help? Well, my name is Manoj, and meditation is the key. So remember when you were happy all those years ago. I can get you there with a few deep breaths. It won't take you long, but you have to trust me. When I saw you, I knew I was the same as you. And I had a feeling within myself. And I got a yearning, baby, to help you, man. To help you, girl. To help the world. Breath. Welcome aboard, mate.
Hey, that was very impressive. Very impressive.
Thank you.
I got to use that. Thank you. That was very touching.
Yeah, I feel like we've all touched each other now. In more ways than one.
I mean, that was. I reckon that was my favourite Tommy's tribute.
Really?
That was fucking good, man.
Yeah, thank you.
That was deep.
That was
deep.
That was good.
Yeah.
We normally throw like about 4 or 5 dick jokes into the Tommy's
I was
tribute.
waiting for them. I came prepared waiting for them.
Yeah. Oh, there's plenty coming. They just want to be in the tribute.
There's a lot of knob jokes coming along. Yeah. Speaking of which, how is he going?
Manoj, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thank you for having me. I'm very grateful to be here.
Cool. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Manoj, and I've recently co-founded Australia's first drop-in multidisciplinary meditation studio, which sounds like a bit of a mouthful, but essentially what we do is we created probably about a year ago. Before that, a business called A Space, which travels around Australia, and we've done a few things in New York and Chicago, so New York and Chicago, and we did a couple of pop-ups around there, pop-up meditation programs and workshops and talks, just around meditation, mindfulness, and spirituality in general. And kind of bringing it to the public eye in a more contemporary way than perhaps it's been done in the past. And through all those programs and workshops that we ran in Melbourne, we had lots of awesome feedback and all these really beautiful people that we were getting in touch with. The feedback was that, it's awesome that you had this workshop once a month, but then what do we do between workshops? And, where are we going to see you next? It's so cool to connect in this way. How come we can't do it more often? So probably around September last year, we had the idea, me and my business partner, Josh, of opening up a studio, opening up a multidisciplinary studio so people can come in, drop in for 30 minutes to 45 minutes, do a meditation class of, 7 or 8 different traditions, and then just be on with their day. And kind of really present these different meditation techniques in a really approachable sort of way. Me personally, I went through the monastery system, the Buddhist monastery system in the temples. So a lot of people find that really, really challenging to come in through that way. And then there's other people who are really interested in mindfulness and things like that, but they just don't know where they can go and find a teacher. So what we tried to do is we've tried to find the best teachers Melbourne has to offer and house them in this one place in Collingwood and share their gifts and their talents.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
So we'll dive right into that 100%, Manoj. But before we do, for yourself, how did it all begin? Because myself and Tommy meditate, but I mean, we have our own stories of how it began for us, and it's still so many people out there don't meditate. Well, what got you to this practice of mindfulness and meditation and so forth?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. I even though I look like a little monk, I actually never ever thought I would meditate. It was around me from a very, very young age. My family was Buddhist. They'd have monks over. We were around the temples, but it never interested me at all. So, I kind of grew up when we came to Australia when I was 5. I grew up, went to school, went to uni, got an awesome job, and to everyone in the outside world, I had a really, really successful life. I was a marketing director for a finance company. I had 6-figure salary by the time I was 25.
Shit.
I had staff. I had a secretary, which was like the highlight, secretary and business cards. That was like my two personal highlights
awesome.
Growing up.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, right?
The secretary and a beard.
I didn't have the beard back then.
Oh, right.
The secretary had the beard.
Yeah.
She was lovely though.
Yeah, Suzanne. If you're listening, Suzanne, we're sorry about beard.
I from the outside world, it was a pretty successful life. But in the inside, in my mind, I was going through a lot. I was burnt out regularly. I had moments in the course of my day where I would just ask myself, like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I just felt so lost. And even though I was good at what I did, I had this nagging feeling I was going to get found out. I'm like, fuck, I'm not really as good as what I think I am. And someone's going to walk in and say, you're fucking stupid. What are you doing? Wasting all our money. And, I had a lot of stress that came along with managing staff, and they came along with the pressures of working in the marketing industry. I had poor eating choices, like because I worked so long at work, I'd binge out on Macca's, and my way of relaxing would be to go for beers with the boys.
Yep.
It was pretty normal now if I look back, but for me at that stage it was pretty hardcore on the inside. And it kind of all came to a head one day when I was at work, and my secretary, Susan or Bob, whatever you want to call her, came and kind of gave me a coffee in the morning, and I sat down and I drank my coffee, and the moment she kind of gave me the coffee, I had a sip. She looked at me and she's like, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." She's like, "Fuck, you look a bit pale," and I'm like, "I'm black." Like, how?
Yeah.
What are you trying to say?
I was going to say, that's tough. You must have been looking off.
You must have been really ill because you're white right now.
I thought it was a black joke. I'm like, oh, cool.
That's
Like,
right. It's offensive.
I'm like, I'm going to fire you, but it's okay. No, I didn't think that at all. But she kind of said that to me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. And she's like, you look pale and you don't look well. And I just thought all of a sudden the coffee was really strong, or I hadn't slept well that night. And as soon as she kind of left, my hand started to shake. I remember my bottom lip kind of quivering, and my heart started to beat really, really quickly. And I started to get really, really scattered thoughts. And in that moment, I kind of didn't know what was going on, but I started to hyperventilate, and it just felt really, really off. To the point where I kind of got up off my desk and I walked out, and I was walking around Melbourne CBD just hyperventilating at what the fuck's going on. What's going on? Am I allowed to swear on this thing?
Yeah. Well, you already have,
100%.
so
Yeah.
it's too late now.
Yeah,
Right.
you ruined it, mate.
Great, awesome.
Fuck's sake.
So that kind of happened, and I remember went to the doctors, and the doctors were like, "Oh, I'm not sure what's wrong with you, but just go and rest." I'm like, "Cool, no worries." So I rested for a day, and I didn't sleep. Went the next day, and when I saw a psychologist, and the psychologist was, I think he might have some sort of anxiety, and recommended I go to somewhere else who, like a psychotherapist or somewhere like that, and they kind of suggested I take some medication for it. So on the third day I took medication and I felt even worse. Fourth day when I saw a different person, they recommended something else, and again, I took it and it didn't work. This went on for about a week, and I was slowly losing my shit. Like I was like, fuck, I haven't slept. I don't know what's going on, and I was just riddled with all these different thoughts. So at the end of that first week, I kind of rang up my boss and said, look, I don't know what's going on right now, but I need to take some leave. I took a few weeks off. Took a few weeks off leave, and at the end of those 2 weeks, I still wasn't feeling better, and I was actually getting worse. So I messaged him, or actually caught up with him, and I'm like, hey, I don't think I can work anymore, and I resigned.
Wow, that's fast, isn't it?
Yeah. So I resigned from work, and I remember my family like, what the fuck are you doing? My friends were like, really confused. And even I was like, I didn't know what was going on for me. It was a really, really dark sort of place that I was in for a little while there. And how the whole journey kind of came about for me is that one day a friend of mine kind of approached me. He's like, hey, why don't you come and do a yoga class? And I'm like, man, I've got too many problems to go and do a yoga class.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I think it'd be good for you. Come and do a yoga class. I'm like, nah, and I can't even touch my toes. He's like, don't worry, there's lots of girls there. I'm like, done. I'll come in. Like, I look like shit, but I don't care. I'll come and do it.
Yeah.
And he took me to this studio where this Buddhist meditation teacher taught, who's my teacher to this day, Chana Dasanaka. And unfortunately, there weren't any girls there. There were like all these middle-aged men falling over each other. And what I went in there thinking yoga was this, beautiful experience where all these girls are wearing Lululemon.
Yeah,
there's going to be hot butts and stuff everywhere.
Watch everyone else touch their toes.
Yeah, right. And it wasn't that at all. He really taught a really meditative form of yoga. And he said this one thing in that class that really kind of set me on this journey and this changed my life. And FYI was the hardest 1 hour of my life.
Yoga's hard, man.
It is really tough.
Yeah.
Really, if you haven't done yoga, it's really hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard, absolutely.
100%.
And just being still was a foreign concept to me. And he said this one thing, which was, you're not your thoughts. And the first time he said it, I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
And then he said it again, you're not your thoughts. You're not your thoughts. Witness your thoughts, observe your thoughts. And right at the end, in Shavasana, when you're lying down, my eyes were, kind of wide open. I was thinking, and he said it again, you're not your thoughts. Just notice your thoughts. And I had a moment of just kind of seeing all these different thoughts going through my mind. Like, fuck, you got to get up. You're going to be late for your meeting. Or what are you going to do if you can't work? Your girlfriend's going to leave you. Your mum thinks you're a reject. And I had this moment of seeing all of those, but feeling a sense of detachment from them. So there was me and there were these thoughts. And I kind of realized that if I was observing these thoughts that were going through my mind, I had a choice of if I wanted to believe them and accept them to be me, or if I would just let them go, what would happen? And, that was for me a bit of a transformational moment. And I came back and I saw him every day for 5 years.
Wow.
And that was the start of my journey.
That's amazing.
And I went from there to traveling around the world, and I stayed in some temples, went to some amazing teachers like Sharon Salzberg and Jack Cornfield, and really immersed myself in Buddhist meditation and Buddhist philosophy. And I was kind of converted from there.
Yeah.
That was it.
So that's fascinating. So it's like, is that what I understand briefly is like, well, I guess my question is, where do how does Buddhism and mindfulness meditation intertwine? Like, how do you, can you separate the religion from the practice, or is it kind of like the same thing? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, when I was growing up, I saw it very much as a religion. But it's only really because I couldn't understand it or I didn't understand it. And, you know, you speak to most Buddhists, they'll say it's not really a religion. It's like a way of living, like it's a lifestyle choice. And I kind of tend to agree with that.
You don't worship anything in Buddhism, do you?
No,
there's no
See, that
deity
already
that you
sounds really good.
Yeah. I mean, look, you know, if you think about the Buddha, he was just a regular dude. He's a regular dude that had like regular experiences, and he suffered, and his suffering was mental as well. Like you know, he saw people that were dying, he saw people that were old, and he was like, "What the fuck? What's going on?" You might not have said "what the fuck," but you know,
well, the Vipassana should have asked last night.
right.
Vipassana is it's fuck.
Fucking Pali.
Exactly.
But he, you know, just wanted to find a way to stop suffering, and I really resonated with that because I wanted a way to stop my suffering. So if you think about mindfulness itself, mindfulness was brought over to the West about 50, 60 years ago from, you know, a lot of teachers like John Kabat-Zinn, Sharon Salzberg, Jack Kornfield, Joseph Goldstein, and they really studied the Buddhist tradition, and they brought the practice of meditation, the philosophy, or some of the philosophies of Buddhism to the West, and they researched it. And what the research showed was that, you know, you can directly impact your level of focus, your level of empathy and compassion. You can increase your well-being by using these techniques, you know, meditation techniques and these certain ways of viewing life and dealing with your own suffering. And that really validated a lot of the Eastern traditions. And you know, these days, every corner I go to, I see something around mindfulness, you know, mindful beer drinking, mindful marketing, mindful, you know, relationships. And it's just it's turning into a bit of a buzzword, but essentially what mindfulness is our capacity to be present with our experience with a certain attitude. And that attitude is important. That attitude has to be with kindness and compassion.
Yeah, that's fascinating, isn't it?
I think what you said there, Manoj, is one of the things that I think is really important with this mindful movement that you spoke of and that you're a very big part of yourself, is the scientific backing of these, you know, these techniques. Because for me, I grew up with a mum that was a yoga teacher, very spiritual. She's a Reiki practitioner, so on and so forth. And I'm like science. Mum would be, I'd be sick. She would give me all these herbs and look in and what about send me to naturopaths? And I'd say, take me to the doctor.
Where's the Valium?
Yeah, exactly. That was my default way of thinking in my brain, right? But my mum was always very spiritual. And I always thought that meditation was just airy-fairy. And I always thought sitting there, hands on your knees, omming, trying to look down upon yourself in an out-of-body experience. Whereas if I had have known, like, hey, here's the figures, here's the studies, this shit actually works. Because for people like the people that we're trying to convert, they're probably, or not that we're trying to, you know, but the people that probably want to be converted without knowing that, they're probably not the people that are defaulting to being spiritual, but there's still a stigma that's attached to meditation and mindfulness. Because
but you said it yourself, like people just don't understand. Like you didn't understand what Buddhism was as a kid. You thought it was a religion. And to be honest with you, literally in the past 5 minutes, you've already swayed my understanding of it. Like I thought it was like I didn't even realize that people didn't worship anything in Buddhism, and it's just like that way of life becomes a religion almost, because you just become so focused on it.
And I think just to that point, like one of Buddha's last teachings was, you know, believe nothing, no matter who has said it, even if I do.
Yes.
And what that essentially translates to is that here's a way out of suffering.
Yeah.
You know, he talks about the Four Noble Truths, like, you know, there is suffering in this world, and everyone agrees, like, yes, we all suffer, even if that's, you know, not anxiety, depression, but, you know, we suffer from illness, death. We also suffer from not getting a job, suffer that. Here's a way out of that suffering. And then this is how you do it. So, you know, essentially what he's saying is that try it on for yourself. If you don't like it, then don't do it.
Yeah.
But to your point, Bill, the science is really important these days, you know. I've been teaching now for over 10 years, and, you know, when I first started teaching, it wasn't from a scientific perspective. It was from, you know, coming out of the temples and the monasteries and what my teacher had taught me. And people would be like, oh yeah, it sounds great, it sounds lovely, but like, fuck, I've got like bills to pay. I've got a relationship to look after. I've got a business to run. Like, you know, what's the ROI on this? Stuff like that. So we've gotten more educated over the last 10 years, and you know, people starting to realize that the benefit in cultivating a stronger mind, because we know if we want to get stronger physically, we'll go to the gym, we'll do CrossFit, we'll run every day, we'll eat healthy, but very rarely do we look after our mind, and we just accept that we've just got this mind, we're just going to live with this mind. But fuck no, you can actually train your mind. You can cultivate a sense of focus. You can cultivate more courage, more fearlessness through certain techniques and through certain practices.
And how much of what you've built up in A Space, and I haven't actually been in the studio, but I've obviously dealt with you here, and then I've seen it online and so forth. How much of it is trying to make it? You said yourself that you've got a marketing background. I can see that in what you do, because it's the marketing is really well put together. The branding is really good, but trying to package it so it's a cool thing to do, rather than because of this huge stigma. Because there's still. I remember I mentioned this to Tommy. I was absolutely shocked when you had the first session here, and we were downstairs, and there was probably about 20 people in the room, and you said, everybody, put your hand up if you have a mindful practice. And I thought, with a place like this, very forward-thinking, everyone's entrepreneurial, young, switched on, I thought that everyone would stick their hand up, and maybe the other 80 people that weren't in the room might all meditate or might have mindfulness practices of some sort. But I was the only person that stuck my hand up, which I was shocked with. But I think it's because it's still, like you said, you're the only studio in Melbourne or doing something like this. It's still yet to be packaged in a way that people want to get behind, and they're not ashamed to be like, I might meditate every day. Yeah. Because I'll give you an example. I walked out of there, and I won't tell you who it was, and it doesn't matter anyway, but one of the guys in the that was in the class looked at me. We crossed paths. We didn't know each other. Crossed paths in the kitchen, and he looked at me and he said, "Hey mate," no, he said, "Gonna be meditating, mate." Like, as kind of like a default bro to bro. How was that? Yeah. And I was like, and I looked at it, and I looked at him, I'm like, man, I've meditated every day for 18 months. And he's like, oh, really? And then we end up getting in a really good conversation with it about it. And then
how he's depressed and how
But that was the default mode for him, was like, how was that shit? As a blokey guy to I look like a blokey kind of average dude,
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I actually don't do any of the marketing for A-Space. My business partner does that, thank God. But for us, the biggest thing was to share something for me that has helped me get out of suffering, that has helped my life so much, just share with more people. And for us, it was around the fact that we wanted to show that real people meditate. And you don't have to go to the Himalayas or to Sri Lanka, spend months in a Vipassana retreat to be able to meditate. You don't have to look like a Buddha. You don't have to, be timid. You can be a bloke, and you can meditate. And a lot of our clients are, people like the Melbourne Victory, the cricket teams, the football teams. We get a lot of tradies that come in and do it. And it has to lose this woo-woo mentality to it.
Yeah, it definitely does.
And I think people are getting there with all the science and the research. But you're right, man. I think the biggest thing is trying to make it look accessible.
Yeah.
And we just try to represent in everything that we do who we are. Yeah. So I go to teach classes. I'm wearing my leather jacket. I've got my rings and. Yeah. Sometimes I'm wearing a baseball hat.
Skinny jeans and a pair of Nike.
Yeah. I don't wear skinny jeans. I'm sorry.
Well, all right.
Get out.
There's a dick joke there waiting.
There's definitely a dick joke, yeah. Something cock. Come at me. In about 5 cocks.
Yeah, so when you say, just to put it in perspective, because hopefully there's a lot of people listening that don't meditate, and, when you say stuff like suffering, so to put into perspective, suffering, that sounds like...
Sounds intense, right?
Yeah, it's a really broad term, but we're talking about somebody that's stressed at work, somebody that's in a relationship that they're always thinking that their partner might leave them. It might be that they are going down a depressive track. It might be a number of things that are something that's internal. And meditation. Talk to us about like how the actual act of meditation. So when you sit down and go through whatever we go through, how does it actually benefit and help you get out of that suffering that you speak of?
Yeah, really good question. So suffering, it sounds intense, but it's not necessarily, when I speak about it, it's not the kind of suffering where like I whack you with my dick and all of a sudden...
I was actually hoping you went for the dick joke.
That's definitely not suffering, to be honest.
Maybe not to Bill,
every day, if that's the case.
That's subjective.
It's self-suffering.
Let me use a different analogy. The Buddha wouldn't be too impressed with using that analogy. So it's not that kind of suffering where if I threw this glass at your face, then you'd feel that the painful suffering, right? There is pain that we suffer that is inevitable. Yeah, and we can't avoid that. Death, we can't avoid. Getting sick, getting old, we can't avoid that. But then there is the suffering that's optional. Yeah, the kind of suffering from a relationship that ends, suffering from anxiety, suffering from depression, the suffering from our thoughts. Because if you think about it, if I was to tell you right now, like, you would have to wear the same pair of clothes for the rest of your life, a little part of you is like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, already you're starting to get a bit, stressed out. Like, I know, who are you to tell me this? Of course I can do it. And that's what we refer to as a suffering. And you can call it unsatisfactoriness.
Yep.
But that's, suffering. And we experience suffering to different levels in each of us, right? How meditation helps that is that first there is a pathway out of that. And that's the Buddhist philosophy on suffering. We can approach suffering from many different angles, meditation being one of them. And the scientific kind of look at how meditation eases things like anxiety, depression, and things like that is that first we get really, really present. We get present with the moment, so our minds don't have an opportunity to fester and get overactive. So if you think about our minds like a monkey jumping from branch to branch to branch to branch to branch, it's like our minds, right? Like one moment we're here, you're paying attention to what we're saying, what we're doing, and then moments like, that reminds me, I've got to send this email to Bill tomorrow. And then it's like, but what am I going to eat tonight? Tonight's like my cheat meal night, so I'm going to go and get fried chicken. And then your mind goes down the rabbit hole of thoughts, right? So same with me, like when I had really bad anxiety, that was my mind. It was going from thought to thought to thought. And a lot of those thoughts were negative thoughts, like, okay, my girlfriend's going to leave me.
Yep.
And if I don't have her, my life's going to be shit. And if my life is shit, like who's going to want to be with me? I'm like a piece of shit, like blah, blah, blah. So when we become first really present with the moment, we acknowledge that our mind is wandering. We're like, okay, cool. I noticed this. We can't change what we can't see. So once we see that our minds wander, then we can start to make steps towards changing that. We bring our attention onto this present moment and we anchor it. And that anchoring could be on the breath. That anchoring could be on a mantra, like a word that you repeat over and over again. It could be on something visual, or it could be on a sensation, the sensation of your foot.
Yeah.
Then you're going to notice straight away your mind's going to wander. Like, okay, what am I going to eat today? What am I going to wear today? What if my girlfriend breaks up? And as soon as you know that, you bring your attention back. And that's all meditation is. Yeah, all meditation is. And if you think about the analogy of a bicep curl, like you guys, big boys, like you train.
Thanks, mate.
We
no worries.
the lighting helps a little bit, but we're pretty big.
We can wear skinny jeans, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Biceps are going all right. Yeah.
So if you think about the bicep curl, you lift up, and the more you do of it, the stronger that gets, right? So your mind, when it wanders away from the sensation of your foot, let's say, and you bring it back, you're strengthening the prefrontal cortex of your brain. And the prefrontal cortex of your brain is there's a part of your brain that regulates your emotional intelligence, allows you to be more empathetic, allows you to make better decisions, and is the center for executive function. Executive function, being able to make split decisions, being able to be clear and focus and those sort of things. And that's all the practice is. Yeah, it's failing to be present and returning, failing to be present and returning. And over time, that strengthens the bicep curl in your brain. So that cortex strengthens, and you'll realize when you're walking down the street, all of a sudden, I'm not as in my thoughts today. I can see the colors in the trees a little bit more vibrantly. Yeah. You're having a conversation with a friend, your mind doesn't wander as much. And when it does, you're compassionate to it because you know it does. And you're not going to beat yourself going, fuck, like I'm shit at this. Like, I can't meditate. Because that's the number one thing I get. When people come to me, it's like, 100%. I've got an overactive mind. I go, fuck, you're human.
Exactly.
Congratulations. Do you want to be more focused? Because if you don't, then that's cool. But I hazard a guess that everyone wants to be clearer, more focused, more compassionate. And then you just practice, practice daily, and it just becomes easier and easier.
I've got two questions that I really want to answer. Want you to answer for me. But the first one is for you personally in being in this sort of in the industry and doing it yourself for so long now. Do you personally notice how much more aware and present you are? Like, could you see yourself 5 years ago to where you are now, where you can literally spend a whole day in a state of presence?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are times when I go, probably twice a year, I go and spend 10 days in silence, like I do a Vipassana retreat, and everything becomes illuminated there. Right? Everything becomes really, really vibrant, from the colors to the thoughts to even walking. You're like, oh my God, how nice it is to walk. But, you know, in my everyday life, I'm way more present. And there are days where I'm not. And it was funny yesterday, like, it's such a shit example, but near where I work, there's a storage company, and in between, you know, where the Commons is on Gibbs Street and where my studio is, there's like a little thing, and I had to cross to get over to the other side, and there was a forklift driver that was in doing his thing. I hope you're not listening, by the way. And this
Suzanne with a beard.
This forklift driver's like, hey, what are you doing? You can't walk this way. I'm like, what do you mean? My car's right there. Like, my studio's right. He goes, no, fuck off. And I got really angry. I'm like, I'm going to rip your freaking head off. Well, you didn't tell me this. And I got really angry, and I had to walk around. Like, it was like a 5-minute journey around. And I first thing I said to myself was, whoa, I just wanted to rip someone's head off, and I'm a meditation teacher.
Yes.
And the second thing I noticed was where I felt that anger. And I felt the anger around my chest, and I felt like my chest start to close up. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I was walking to my car, and I was noticing where I felt that anger. And when I start to focus on where I felt it, by the time I got to my car, I didn't have that sense of anger anymore.
Yes.
But back in my day, like, if I got angry, I would have yelled at him. I would have thrown something at him. And that same example I use with food. Like, if I get emotional, my go-to is food. Like, I'll go and grab a chocolate bar. I won't even know how it tasted. It'll just be down my throat. But now I can...
Here's a cocktail.
Yeah, right. Boom dish.
Just get emotional. We've all been there. It's all right.
No, so it's like it's a practice that allows you to be more aware in life. And, you know, the single biggest thing it's given me is meditation you don't do it to get good at meditating. No one meditates to get good at meditating. We meditate to get good at life. So we're more present with the people we care about. We're more focused at work. We're more empathetic, you know, and that way we enjoy life. And it doesn't become this daily grind, this daily struggle. Because for a lot of us, it's like that now, you know, especially entrepreneurs. Like, you know, it's a struggle. Like, we just want to get through it. We hustle. And then we get to the end of the week, and we're like, fuck, let's go get a beer. So, you know, meditation and mindfulness just allows you to enjoy each moment. And that's what it's given me.
My second question was, because I found meditation, as you know, when we hung out from a period of need as well, quite similar to yourself. But it took me about 10 months before I started to notice it. And then I always make it that the first time I ever sort of noticed meditation helping was when I dropped all my food from shopping and it rolled down the hill, and I started laughing first. And I always would have gotten really stressed and pissed off at that. But I was like, I just noticed it. And then it was just a lot better. But my question is religious based, right? So when I started to meditate and I started to feel how amazingly beneficial it was for me, I think just at the right time, whether the universe was just giving me this opportunity, but I read Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. And he makes so many references to Jesus and his teachings, and talking about, you know, he says, you know, Jesus said that the kingdom of heaven is all around you if you just follow me. And Eckhart believes, as I probably am very swayed to believe now as well, that Jesus was talking about just having that inner peace within yourself. And if you are truly present, then life is just so much more vibrant and beautiful. And you see the flowers, like you said, and the kingdom of heaven is really all around you. How many of these sort of like religious leaders do you feel were just teaching mindfulness? Yeah,
I mean, I'm not too well versed in many other religions. But at its essence, I've studied a little bit of the Judaism, and I've studied a little bit of Christianity, and they both have contemplative practices within that. You know, contemplative practice being meditation. You know, in New York, where I spent a bit of my time, like the Jewish meditation practice is really popular. So to your point, I completely agree. Like, you know, what I've learned is that everything is actually beautiful. Even the times that we go through where we're like, fuck, like, how am I going to get through this? We tend to look back on them over years and we're like, man, that was so amazing.
Yes.
That helped me get to where I am. And I look back at my anxiety attack at work. I'm like, I might never have done this sort of work if I'd never done that.
No serenade.
No serenade, right? So I completely agree. I think everything, when we get to a certain stage, we realize how fleeting every moment is.
Yes.
And that's like at the heart of Buddhist practice as well, is that we realize that this is all impermanent. Our suffering is impermanent, our bodies are impermanent, our lives are impermanent. And if we look at that as in us having a finite time to experience what we call life, why the hell are we going to get caught up in parking fines? You know, why does it actually matter if the toilet seat is up? We get caught up in the little anxieties of our life. We realize, man, like you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. And that doesn't mean all of a sudden you just, sell everything and you just, cruise down Swanston Street naked going, it just means that you put things into perspective, that this moment here we might never have again in this exact context. So like, let's have fun. Like, let's enjoy it. Let's talk about dicks. Like, let's do it.
Let's touch dicks even.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
sorry, I've gone too far. I'm too far at the moment now.
Whoa.
Gotta stop meditating.
Bill's half bar right now.
Half must. That's fascinating. I like the what you were talking about before about being able to disassociate the difference between the physical sensation of whether it's anger, anxiousness, stress. You can feel it in your body. Heartbreak,
absolutely.
Even. Yeah. Heartbreak, even. Yeah. Like I went through ended a relationship last year, and one of the 2 times in my life where my chest has hurt. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? My chest actually hurts. You actually, when you first go through that, you're like, oh, that's why they call it that.
Heartbreak.
It's crazy.
No shit.
But to be able to step back, because in regular day-to-day life, you don't have that opportunity. I really don't think you do. Whereas, like, we had a little tiff on the phone before the start of the show about Tommy thought we were recording from my place. I thought we were recording from here. Was he going to be late? We had a guest coming before we recorded with another guest. And we were both a little narky to each other on the phone. And then we got off the phone, and I'm sure you would agree, Tommy, that it was like...
Straight away, I was like, where'd that come from?
Yeah, and then so you get that initial anger, which is human nature, and then you're like, okay, I'm angry, but I don't need to be angry. It's all going to be good. And it's just it's that feeling that you have inside of your body, but you can actually see that, and then you can say, look, this is going to pass. It's all good. Yeah. Move on. Fucking, there's no reason to be...
Yeah, exactly right. And I think the next
Fuck
layer...
you, by the way.
I think the next layer of that is to catch it before it actually gets to that.
Yes.
For a lot of us, we react, we don't respond. And that's what meditation and mindfulness, there is a difference, by the way. Mindfulness being, your capacity to be present and aware with compassion. And you can do that not just in meditation. You can do that just in day-to-day life. I think catching it is the really important part. To notice that, I'm just freaking yelling at him for where did it come from? Because for a lot of us, we have that impulse straight away, but we choose to act on it, Someone, you're driving down your freeway, someone pulls in front of you, you're like, fuck you, straight away. And you might tailgate them, and that's for a lot of us, it's an unconscious habit.
Yes.
So mindfulness gives us a moment to kind of be like, whoa, I feel anger right now.
Yeah.
And do I want to really follow this truckie down the road with my kids in the back seat and yell at them, or do I want to just take a breath and let that shit go and just be a good example? And that's what it gives you. It gives you a space to really choose your response.
It's that is such a important point. What you made is we're very reactive. Even just looking back on it now, as soon as we drop the phone, because Bill and I have a sensational working relationship, and we'll probably at most tiff every now and then. But
it's never yelling or anything.
It's never yelling,
but it's just a shit feeling when you get off the phone.
You just get a shit feeling. I was like, oh fuck, he's just pissed me off a little bit, And honestly, if we didn't have that, it'd be phenomenal. But it really has coincided. I feel with you and I talking more about mindfulness meditation. You and I having it such a big part of our lives now. How much better we've been at it. But I had a case with Dad on the phone yesterday, and it was exactly the same as Bill, with us this morning. I had a massive go at him and all this sort of thing. And then as soon as I got off the phone, I just noticed it, this feeling of anger in me. And I always have, I can't remember who said it, but someone said, when you say your fist is clenched, do you say you're clenched or you say your fist is clenched? And you look and you go, oh no, my fist is clenched. I wouldn't say I'm clenched. So then why do you do that with an emotion? And so when I noticed this anger, I was like, oh shit, I'm feeling this anger right now. And I felt just extreme guilt straight away because I just had a very impulsive, reactive go at Dad, and it just wasn't necessary. He was probably having a fine day, you know, until this comes along, this negativity comes along. I had to call him up and say, I actually messaged him and I said, hey, can I call you? And he said, no, you know, I'm just with a client right now. And I said, hey, look, I have to speak to you directly. Let me know when you have to call. And I just apologized because I just felt so guilty, you know. I was like, this is not me who I want to be. Someone who's trying to teach something about mental health or just speak about it more, and then I'm doing something like that, you know.
Yeah, I think the really powerful part of what you both just shared right now is the very human quality. You know, as much as even I try to be, you know, this really spiritual and mindful human being, like I have very human emotions, and the Buddha always talked about just the human quality in each of us. So the judgment, if you both added a layer of judgment after that, that makes it even worse. You know, like there is that instant like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And then it's like, okay, cool, but I'm human. Let's move on.
Yes.
Yeah.
What a lot of us tend to do is we're like, oh, fuck, I'm such a bad person.
Yeah.
That we stew in that guilt, and that's worse as well. So it's the recognition that our minds have created an element of unsatisfaction with the moment, and just being able to let it go.
Yes.
Yeah, and just moving on and learning and kind of committing to be more present and aware as we go on the rest of our day.
And so do you feel like the more you meditate and the more mindful you become, you begin to be more proactive and less reactive in those sort of settings?
Yeah, I think 100%. Like, you become more responsive as opposed to proactive. You become more responsive as opposed to reactive.
Yes.
And it comes back to that space you're creating. You know, you realize the more you do it, like, for anyone that hasn't meditated, you'll know when you first start, it's friggin' hard, right? But it's only because we sit there and we put an expectation to it. If we just went in there going, oh, I'm just going to see what happens here every single day, then it wouldn't be hard. Yeah. So you have to be compassionate when you meditate. If you are really like stuck, like, oh, fuck, like, you know, my mind's not wandering, my mind's, you know, wandering too much, then you're not meditating. So when you are compassionate with yourself in practice, it naturally turns out to you naturally become more compassionate in everyday life. So, you know, you know, some days I just binge out on fried food. Yeah. And I used to be really guilty. Like I used to take that. I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm just going to binge out for the next 4 days now because I've already given up my diet. But then I'm like, okay, no, like it's okay. I'm human. Like I'm going to do it. But I'm just going to make wiser decisions next time. Yes. And one of my favorite teachers, Joseph Goldstein, has this quote that I really, really resonate with. He said, you know, if you want to understand your mind, sit down and observe it.
Oh, beautiful.
And when you observe your mind, you can start to realize what makes you happy and what makes you unhappy. And then from there, you'll make wiser decisions. And when you make wiser decisions, you realize what makes you happy and what makes you unhappy. And this circle starts to form. You know, you start to get happier from the decisions you make. But that takes time. You know, it takes time and it takes dedicated practice.
One of the biggest things for me is that allowed me to be the watcher of my mind was just that. I'd never heard that term before in my life.
Did you hear that on Sam Harris as well?
I might have been Sam Harris's
meditation podcast.
No, the book. That's the same. It's the same name. Waking Up. The book. It may have been on in that book. I listened to it. Yeah. But it was the first time that I'd ever really thought about the fact that, okay, so people associate themselves with their thoughts. That's me because I'm thinking them. Yeah. But how are we able to sit back and go, that's a funny thought. Yeah. Why am I thinking that? Yeah. So you have to actually realise, and this is what, for me, I'd never even contemplated this. Yes. Realise that there is somebody watching the thought. Yes. And that somebody that's watching the thought is probably more closer to you than the crazy thoughts that are floating through your mind. And when I was able to think in that context, then that's where everything for me changed. I mean, there's actually trying to clear your mind through breathing and sitting down and actually meditating. But learning the art of actually being the watcher of your thoughts, for me, was like it was a game changer. Definitely. You're like, all right, there's that anger. And the analogy is like the clouds one, you know, the clouds in the sky, but the sky's always blue. Yeah, you know, and the clouds are always fluent. Yeah. That was the real, for me, I was like, fucking hell, how have I not ever thought like that? Yeah. Because it changes the whole game.
And that's what meditation is, man. Like that's essentially it. We just notice everything coming and going. Like the breath comes and goes. No two breaths are the same. Anger comes and goes, like anxiety comes and goes, stress comes and goes, even good times come and go. And then when we can be at ease with that, when we can accept that, life just flows, and we all talk about flow as being so important to our life. When you're surfing or when you're skateboarding or when you're in that rhythm at work, like that level of flow. And that comes when we just accept the moment for what it is, as a fleeting moment. And we just observe it, and you're right, man. So for me as well, it was a game changer. Yeah.
What about the actual term spirituality? Like when you say you're a spiritual person, what do you mean and how does that differ from your meditation practice?
Yeah, I mean, that's again a really great question. I think spirituality, you are killing it. Spirituality means lots of different things to lots of different people. Like, I've spoken to people that have never heard of any sort of religion, have no interest in it, but their kids are something they're deeply connected to in a way that is beyond them. And I think of my spirituality as being that as well. Like, although the majority of my training and my teaching has been in the Buddhist tradition, like I don't think that there's just one religion in this world or one spirit, like whatever it is. Like, I don't think I'm religious. I don't, even though Buddhism is defined as a religion, I think it's a level of spirit, a level of understanding of who we are at a deeper level. And, I've always had a yearning to find that out. It started off when, I was just like, what am I on this earth to do? I had that question for a long time, like, what am I meant to do? And I yearned to find out. And even that is a level of spirituality, just the wanting to not just think that this body, this bag of bones and muscles is who I am. Like, I think I want to know something deeper than that. And for me, that's what it is, a wanting to understand a deeper level of who you think you really are.
Absolutely.
Manoj, I just had one question. So obviously there's meditation, the art of just trying to be mindful day to day in your thoughts and so forth. There's lots of other ways, little hacks and stuff that people can do to be happier day to day. Myself and Tommy have stuff that we do every day. But I want to ask you, like, what are other things that you do to try and bring a greater level of happiness to yourself day to day?
Yeah. One of the beautiful things about Western science is that it overlays so well with meditation and mindfulness. If you think about being present, you can think about being present as a habit. Yeah. So when I wake up in the morning, or when you guys wake up in the morning, you have a habit that you do, like it's your morning routine.
Yep.
For mine, for a long period of time, was waking up in the morning, going to the bathroom, having a shower, brushing my teeth, eating breakfast, going to work.
Yep.
So what I do, I don't think being mindful is a hack. I think being mindful is a way of life.
Yeah.
But I think there are definitely ways you could create pockets of stillness, and you can change your habits. So one of the ways that my routine these days is that I wake up in the morning, I go to the bathroom, I drink a big jug of water, and I sit down and meditate every single day, no matter how I'm feeling. 10 minutes some days, usually 25 to 30 minutes. And then I go and I grab a journal and I write down what I'm going to do for the rest of my day. Then I turn off I don't turn my phone on till I walk out the door, which is usually around 8 a.m. Because I used to be one of those people in bed checking my emails and Facebook and Instagram.
Yes.
And then I turn off all of my notifications. So all of my Instagram, Facebook, emails, I turn them off. And if I want to check them, I have to go into them.
Yeah.
So that for me is great for if I'm writing something, if I'm writing an article, it just means that I'm not going to be interrupted by a constant phone going off.
Yeah.
And then when me and my business partner have meetings, we take 5 deep breaths, we center ourselves and we check in, like, how are you feeling? Before any meeting, how are you feeling? It's like, yeah, I'm feeling good, or I'm feeling stressed. And, if it's like, let's talk about it, like, what's the stress? And if the stress is so big that it's going to interrupt our meeting, then we'll say, okay, let's meet later on today.
That's awesome.
Those are a couple of little things. Like, I try to do one thing at a time. I do focused work. So meaning, we all have hundreds of friggin' things on our checklist item for the day, right? Sometimes for me, it's really hard to juggle them because I'm excited by all of them. So I'll say to myself, okay, I've got to write this article. I'm going to block out 1 hour. I'm going to go somewhere I love that I'm inspired by. Like, that could be the gallery, could be an awesome cafe, could be the garden. I'm going to do 1 hour of focus work. And it could take 4 hours, this whole thing, but I'm going to do 1 hour focus work. Then I'm going to go for a walk. Then I'm going to come back, do another half an hour of it. After that half an hour, I'm going to go drink 2 glasses of water, maybe do a 5-minute meditation, and then smash out 2 hours. So I tried to get really intentional with what I do and do one thing well. Because, the research shows that multitasking is just bullshit.
Yeah, there's a... with my old business coach, there was a gala evening that they put on for all their clients last year, and they had a speaker, and he talked about the go zone, the slow zone, and the no zone. This is like his mantra. Kind of sounds lame, but it's very similar to what you said.
And the ozone.
Yeah. Obviously the ozone layer. Yeah. Yes. Good point. It's very
important.
Glad you brought that up.
Yeah. 21st century.
But it was very similar, and I started doing it, and it works great, whereas the go zones where you have to have that period of time in your day where you're like, right, I'm going to only focus on this. Phone goes away, blah, blah, blah. Slow zones where like, oh, yeah, cool, I got some music playing, there's some people in the office, I can chat and stuff, but I'm still getting work done. And then there's the no zone where it was like, right, I'm not thinking about work at all for these 2 hours. I'm going to go read in the park and then walk my dog. I'm going to... and obviously at home you try and have that no zone, so you're not thinking about work and stuff as well. But it was very similar theory to what you had where, because we are all day, every day trying to get a million things done at once. And I think not many of us actually go, all right, let's sit down and spend X amount of time doing this task and this task alone. And it's so productive, I feel, when you actually do.
Man, like if you think about, like the research shows us that 47% of our day, our minds are somewhere else. And like... broaden that to 47% of our life, like almost half of our life when we're focused on what we're doing. And that might sound minuscule when you think about work, but it's also like, with our family, our friends and our partners, like we're not there. And I'm like, fuck that. Like I want to be present. Like I want to be present to the things, like to my mates. I want to enjoy when I'm traveling, really take it in. And, like I always tend to open my workshops and programs by talking about the honeymoon period of a relationship. When you meet someone for the first time, you're so freaking curious about it. Like, what's your favorite color? Like, can we hang out again?
Purple, yes we can.
Like all that sort of stuff. And you're really interested in them and you're really present when you're with them. But over time, you see them more often, and then you start to check your phone or you start to think about other things, and it just becomes this routine that you're not as present as you were. And that's all the honeymoon period really is that an intense period of mindfulness, and we can cultivate that throughout the course of our day.
Absolutely.
Even if it's just going for a walk and noticing the clouds or the tree or someone's face. Someone's dick, like what?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, man,
he's caught on the wave, hasn't he?
I came prepared.
Let me tell you, mate, I'm very present right now.
We had a show with Andrew Locke before earlier, and me and Tommy finished the show, and I said to Tommy after the show, I said, I don't think we got one dick joke in that show, but we've made up
We've
for it.
about 17 today.
Great. FYI, I'm not advocating staring at anyone's dick.
That's right. Well, unless it brings about mindfulness, then that's fine. Right?
I mean, being present when you're having sex is really important.
I think it's very... I'm not joking when I say this. I think it's one of the best ways to be present.
Oh, 100%.
It's because, like you say, when you mentioned before, focusing on one thing, like if you're walking down on the beach and you're focusing on the sand going through your toes, and only that's being mindful, being present.
Sure.
Sex is the number one.
Oh, exactly.
Really, like if you're not
brings...
involved, if you're thinking about work when you're when you're having a sesh, and you're getting a blowjob, then you need to change your job.
Or you need to change the blowjob. Well, depends what job you're thinking about.
It is deteriorating very quickly.
Exactly.
All right, so Manoj, we do have to get you out of here. I think we're definitely going to have to do a round two because there's so many things that both me and Tommy, I know, we want to touch on more.
Absolutely.
But we've got all
the time.
That's
not a segue.
Stay tuned for mindfulness and sex.
Yeah, that's right.
But before we do, we have to get you out with 6 from 6. 3 questions from me, 3 questions from Tommy.
Awesome.
All right, so...
Is this one word answers?
No, they're not one word, but...
Okay, cool.
It's semi-rapid fire, but anyway, we'll be fine. So we've got... my first question is a travel-related question. It's favourite travel destination on the planet and why?
It used to be Sri Lanka for a very long time because I grew up there, and it's just beautiful. The people are really gentle and kind, and the food's amazing. The beaches are wicked. But these days, I got to say New York. Like every time I go to New York, I come alive because I think I am really present when I go there. So many things happening, and it's really fun.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
cool. My second question is dream travel destination, somewhere that you haven't been, absolutely number one, top of your bucket list.
It would be Nepal, actually. Nepal, yeah. I'd love to visit the Himalayas, and there's amazing meditation teachers in Nepal. And it's a really beautiful place. I'd love to visit. Yeah.
Cool. Good answer. Third question and final question from me is your any book that you like to recommend to people. Can be a novel, can be a biography, can be anything.
Yeah. I think, for me, a book that really, I think for you as well, Tommy, we spoke about it when you came down, was The Power of Now. Like that one for me, when I first picked it up, I was like, what the fuck is he actually saying?
Yeah.
But then
when name is Eckhart.
But then, when I went through my shit, like I realized how on the money it was. So that one, and then a book by Pema Chodron, who's a wonderful Buddhist nun, called The Places That Scare You. For anyone that's going through some really, really challenging times, that's a wonderful book as well.
Nice. Cool. Awesome.
For me, yes. What do you like to do when you have some downtime or when you have some spare time? And the show we had before, he said, I've got no spare time, which is good, but like some things you just enjoy doing that probably aren't necessarily work related.
And I really love traveling, but I really love experiencing amazing conversations. So for me, like I like deep and meaningful conversations. So any chance I get to bail someone, ask them about their life, is a good moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's very similar to me, for sure. Now, what about a role model or someone that inspires you?
For me, it's my teacher. So his name is Chana Desanaika, and he's the most caring, compassionate, and present individual I've ever met in my life. The kind of person that no matter what adversity he encounters, he's always kind and understanding. And for me, it's almost like a superhuman quality because for me, I'm very reactive sometimes. And, I see only from my personal experience, but he sees from a vastly broader experience. So he's someone I definitely look up to.
Beautiful. And finally, mate, if you could invite 3 people to a dinner, dead or alive, who would they be and why? Which is a very tough question.
Miranda Kerr.
Oh, yeah.
Good answer.
Yeah, she's very meditative.
Good answer. Get her to bring her friend Adriana Lima could probably come along.
Yeah.
Adriana Lima. Yeah, definitely.
That's 2.
And Giselle.
Yeah.
Hey, this is a great dinner.
Sorry.
Spoken like a true man.
Yeah.
We get everyone saying Mahatma Gandhi, maybe Michael Jordan.
Shut the fuck up.
Tell us who you really want.
Who do you want to bang?
If my fiancés listen to this, I just want to talk to them about their business and how they got so popular.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Great set of businesses. Oh, so sorry.
Yeah. Great set of personalities. Great, Manoj. Well, where can people find you? Anything you want to plug? Now's your time.
Man, just you can find me at a lot of places these days. Like our studio is in Collingwood. It's called A-Space, a meditation studio, or A-Space meditation studio. Online, it's www.a-space.com.au, or my personal website, which is Manoj, ManojDias.com.au. And I've got a whole bunch of articles and stuff up there, and just check it out. And if I could leave you guys with anything, meditation is simple. You just have to remember to do it.
That's great. I like that. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, Manoj, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, boys.
Loved it,
Fun.
man. It's good fun.
Cool.
Have to
Do it
get
again.
for round 2, like Bill said.
Yes.
Alrighty, and that's a wrap. Alrighty, guys. Thanks for listening. If you are a first-time listener, please leave us a subscription. Don't leave us a subscription, just give us a subscription. That will help us climb the rankings, get more downloads, which would be great. Then once you've listened a few times and you really like the show, which you will, I know you will, then leave us a rating and review. So if you could give us a rating and review, 5 stars, of course, that would be amazing. Again, that will help us climb the ratings and get in front of more people. And then also, if you want anything that was mentioned in the show, you want to learn anything, you want to check anything out for yourself, then head to www.adventurefittravel.com/radio, and all the show notes will be there. Don't forget audibletrial.com/ADVF radio for your Audible freebies. Head to quashcreative.com and use the code word radio when you're speaking to the guys. Get a free SEO report or a report on your existing brand. Also, last but not least, head to adventurefittravel.com, and if you want to book on a holiday, guys, 10% off if you use the code word radio. Alrighty, that's it from me. See you next week.
Discovery Roger, go for deploy.